Welcome to the Dice Tower, a series of video reviews about board and card games. Here are your hosts, Tom Vassell and Sam Healy.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Z Garcia. Howdy.
I'm Sam Healy. Welcome back, folks.
Welcome to the days of yore when people... Okay, never mind. Pioneer days. I don't know where I was going with
the days of yore where people, you know, they had horses and dysentery.
And cows and...
Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now, this could have easily been called Oregon Trail, the board game.
Yes.
Yep.
Easily. And in fact, without spoiling too much, it should have been, because the Oregon Trail, the board game, one of the worst pieces of steaming trash ever published.
The card game, that card game.
I gave it a 2, and it should have got a 1.
You overrated it.
But I gave it a 2 because I played a game with Jason where he died on the very first turn, and that's worth at least a point.
That sounds like a bad thing, but I guess the fact that it was Jason was
very first.
He literally turned the card over and said, "You are dead from dysentery."
Oh, wow.
Which
Achievement unlocked.
is funny in the computer game because then you're like, "Oh, restart." Not so funny when you're playing a 4-player game, and you're like,
Right.
"Guys, I'll watch."
Yep.
But anyway, in this game, there is no dysentery, so that's already a plus.
Well, there is definitely dysentery. It's
Isn't it?
called disease, yeah. It's just not
Oh,
called
it's not
dysentery.
dysentery, though. You've got something else that... You've got fleas.
All right,
Fleas that you can die from, apparently.
you'll see. Here we go.
Mutant fleas. So a game of Pioneer Days is played in a number of 4 rounds, which are actually called weeks, and each round or week has no less than 5 days in it. Now, each player will basically have 1 turn per day to do a number of different things that we'll go over in just a few moments. Now, each Pioneer will start with their own player board, and if you choose to start with the asymmetric side of the boards, as you can see here, all of these boards have 2 sides in it. Here you have Trent, the entrepreneur, or you can be the standard Pioneer. Which means that everybody is going to start with the same resources at the bottom, and you basically start all on the same block. But if you use this side of the card, then you'll have a different starting resources, a different special ability that you can do. So everybody will choose their own starting person and gain their starting resources and all of this kind of stuff. So Jake the Prospector here starts with a large wagon, which is what this little thing here is. He also starts with a piece of wood, a gold nugget, and then 5 silver coins. Of note here is that these guys are taking up half a space in your big wagon. So 1 space on your wagon can actually hold 2 wood or 2 medicine, but just keep that in mind throughout the course. Now, at the beginning of your day, you're going to be taking a number of dice out of the bag that will equal the number of players plus 1. So in this game here, I've done a 3-player game, so we're actually going to be taking out 4 dice and rolling them on the first player's turn. This is the first player marker right here. So on this roll, we have all of these different things. Now, after the roll is done, you can use the dice that are on that roll in a number of different ways. Now, the first thing is that there are some warehouse items that may be part of your inventory that have certain firing mechanisms on them. For example, with this bandage right here, you see that it has a log wood up in the top, a plank of wood up in the top of the corner here. So if I choose to activate with the green die here, and this is part of my inventory, then that means I'm going to be able to carry out the ability of this token, which means that I would basically get plus 1 medicine if I had this in my inventory and I chose to activate that die. Then, if you want to, you can pay $3 and change the face of the die to whichever one that you want. And these are the different faces of the die right here. So you have a wild, which basically means it can act like any of the other ones. You have a gold digging or prospecting action, which means that you would take a gold token out of the bag. You have the equip action, which means that you could take one of these general store items and add it to your wagon. You have a cattle action, which means that you can take one cattle and add it to your inventory. You can take a wood and add it to one of your wagons, or you can take a medicine and add it to one of your wagons. All right, so that's one of the things that you can do is do the action of that die. Another thing that you can do is simply take the income that specific die face allows. So for example, if I chose to go with the wood here, I would be able to take 5 silver coins and add it to my stash. If I chose to do the equip action, then I would be able to take 3 bucks and add it to my stash. So first things first, you either can do the action of the face, take income, or you can recruit townsfolk. So for example, with the wood, again, I'd be able to recruit the risk taker. And this person would become part of my town, so to speak, giving me an ability that I can use. There are 3 different kinds of abilities. There are immediate ones that have the bell icon on them. And then you also have triggered effects like this one right here, which will basically fire off if the text on the card when a situation occurs that is on the text. For example, this one, the work leader, it says at the end of each week, this is going to trigger. Gain 1 medicine for every 3 cattle that you have. All right, so you have instance, triggers, and then you also have constant effects. So for example, if I did take the risk taker here, I would be able to, at any time throughout the game, usually on my turn, you may pay 1 less wood or medicine to fulfill the needs of 1 town card each week. These are town cards, and we'll get to them later, but they usually have a requirement that you have to pay, and it gives you a reward. The risk taker would allow you to pay that requirement with 1 less wood or 1 less medicine, provided that the requirement called for one of those 2 ingredients. So with this beginning roll, I think I would probably want to choose, now taking into effect here, my special ability, it says whenever you draw gold tokens, draw 1 more token, then discard any 1 gold token. So I don't have any equipment that I'm going to be able to fire off, so I'm just going to go ahead and use this ability. Actually draw 2 tokens, and I would be able to look at them. As well as this one, and then I'm going to discard 1, and then this would be added to my wagon. The discard goes back into the bag. Now, after everybody in the game has chosen a die for this day, the one that is left, these would actually be put down here as they're being taken. The one that is left is actually going to trigger one of these disaster tokens to move 1 space. So since it's green, the famine disaster token, or I'm sorry, the disease disaster token will move forward, and then this is put down there. And then play would continue into the next day, where the person would draw another 4 dice out of the bag. Let's go ahead and get 3 more. And they would roll these dice as well. And you go through, everybody picking a day and carrying out the different actions, checking to make sure that you're firing off on any of your equipment cards, choosing whether to take income, do the action, or recruit townsfolk, until 5 days has gone through. Now, of note here, if a black die is ever the last die left, then that forces all of the disaster tracks to move up 1. So if this were the case at the end of the next round, then green, yellow, red, and blue would all move up 1. Once the disaster token makes it to the end of the track here, that will fire off a disaster which all of the players will have to deal with. For example, storms, it says you must pay 1 wood for each wagon that you have. Place a damage token on each one you cannot pay for. And damage tokens are basically worth -2 points at the end of the game, and they will also take up 2 spots on your wagon. So that's something you definitely want to stay away from. You also have the raid track here. It says where you must lose half your silver rounded up. If the famine track fires off, you must pay 1 silver for each cattle that you have. Those you cannot pay for are discarded. So let's say that I had 3 cows, and the famine happens. I only have 2 coins, so I would pay both of those, and I'd also have to get rid of 1 cow back to the supply. And then finally, the disease track says you must pay 1 medicine, which are these things right here. You must pay 1 medicine for each townsfolk that you have, and those that you cannot pay for are discarded. Now, at the end of the week, you're going to first of all resolve any card effects that will take place at the end of the week. For example, like we said earlier, this work leader here allows you to gain 1 medicine for every 3 cattle that you have, and that happens at the end of the week. So if anybody had this card, this is when that would fire. You would also gain 1 victory point for every cattle that you have. So if I had 2 cattle at the end of the turn, I would actually get 2 points. So 1, 2, like so, because I have 1 and 2. Then you would also need to satisfy the needs of the face-up town cards in order to earn favors. Now, favors are worth 2 points each. The way you get favors more often than not is by satisfying the requirements of these town cards, because we have arrived in these towns, and so if we can help them with something or other, they will give us a better reputation. For example, if I use 1 equipment to help somebody build their house, then they'll give me 1 favor for doing that, and that becomes part of my inventory. If you spend 1 gold token, 1 wood, and 1 medicine, then you would actually get 3 favors. At any point during your turn, you can buy either a small wagon or a large wagon. Small wagons cost 5 silver coins, and large wagons cost 8 silver coins. Another thing of note is that townsfolk are also going to be giving you some kind of victory point advantage at the end of the game. For example, the work leader here, you get 1 victory point per cattle that you have at the end of the game. The wandering nun gives you 1 victory point per townsfolk that you have in your tableau at the end of the game. Same thing with the drunken doctor. You get 1 victory point per cattle that you have for the sheepdog. So if you have a work leader and a sheepdog, you'll be getting 2 points per cattle at the end of the game. And there is an entire deck of townsfolk here that you can look about. You have swindlers and spectator wells, doctor's daughter, medicine man, the old friend, banker, old inspector, the trail veteran, the sloppy storeman, the Professor Claire. So there's just a number of different things. They all have different abilities and different victory point thingies and different kinds of effects that are going to fire off. So there's a lot of replayability here. So after 4 weeks have gone by, basically 20 days, you're going to come to the end of the game. Now, after the 4th and final week of the game, each one of these disaster things are going to advance another space on their own. So realize that if you have some tokens in this after you end that last 4th week, you are going to be triggering some disasters before the end of the game. After that happens, you will be calculating your score by getting victory points for all of the nuggets that are displayed on your tokens. So if this is all that I had, I'd get an extra 4 points for my gold nuggets over here. I'd also get 2 victory points per favor, as it states there on the actual token. You'll be losing 2 victory points for every damaged wagon that you have. And you'll also be gaining victory points for your townsfolk, as we went over earlier. And then whoever has the most points at the end of the game is the winner. If you go over 50, you simply flip your wagon over to its other side and continue tracking with that plus 50 there as well. And that's, generally speaking, how you play Pioneer Days.
when I first played this, and I mean, I was attracted to it because of how cool it looked. I mean, the dice look good, the artwork looks good. Oh, well, before I get any farther, a brief aside from Z concerning the artwork.
Oh my goodness me! This was already. In fact, I just read a comment about this, where, and this is what I'm talking about here. Some of the artwork on the characters, or most of the artwork, I should say, on the characters, looks like this artwork here on the side: cartoony, bright, sort of. I mean, big eyes, right? It's a slightly anime-ish kind of look to it. Very cartoony, very nice. And some of the illustrations are clearly people. Photos of people, then drawn. And the styles are painfully different, in my opinion. I mean, those cards stand out. To the point that I read a thread that said, that acknowledged that the artist, and this came from the publisher, said, yeah, that was a bad idea. I'm never going to do that again. So this is,
really?
Yes, absolutely. So
that doesn't bother me as much as it bothers Z.
it does bother me because
But I notice it for sure.
the look of the game is excellent. Everything has a really nice look. And then you have those cards. It's like they stick out. It's an eyesore. And that's unfortunate. If everybody looked the same, the boards, which are beautiful, the tokens, everything, this would be a lovely game to look at. As it is now, it has a slight blemish. I'm not saying it ruins the look of the game, but it is a slight blemish to the point that even the artist acknowledges that.
Yeah, it didn't really bother me that much either, because I was mainly more interested in what the card or what that person did and what effect.
He's all about their accomplishments, not their looks.
It was.
I don't know what they do.
Judging people by their outside.
I was more interested in the effect in game that the card was going to give me. I mean, I did look at the artwork, but I was more interested in what the effect was. So
I just know I'm pasting those over with a sticker that says artwork coming soon, and I'm just.
oh my goodness.
Okay, so that aside over. So it attracted me to it because the game looks amazing. Like I said, the dice and everything, even the boards, they have that finish on the bottom of them, keeps them sliding on a table. It's really neat. But then I went over the rules and I was like, huh, because it felt like the epitome of games I'm usually not a fan of. I call them Feldian games.
Games that punish you.
Yes.
The players, yes.
It's actually doesn't. Other than that, it doesn't feel like a Feld game at all. But it's a game in which bad things are going to happen. These things are going to happen. I was like, oh, I don't know. You know, I normally don't like these games, and yet I didn't find it that big of a problem. Do bad things hit me in every game of this I play? For sure.
Yes.
But they all don't hit me, and I'm prepared for more than half of them, at least, usually.
Yeah.
I'm ready for them.
And you can prepare for them, yes.
Right. You sometimes, and it depends on the players, too. You could deliberately, as a group, I guess, just trash everything. Let the black dice go in the draft and just see the cuts of disasters swarm over everything. And I have seen a player be like, this is going to hurt everyone more than me. They'll deliberately not take a black die just to watch a couple things hit.
Yeah.
You can definitely get in someone else's grill that way.
It is nice that it's yet another decision point when you are the last player to pick and you have your two dice, unless they're the same color. That's yet another consideration that goes into what you do on your turn.
Yeah.
Yes, what the dice are showing, and then those dice each can do at least 3 things, but also which one you leave, and that's another point to consider. That's what I like, I think, about it, is the fact that the top-down sort of feel of it is, on your turn, you grab a die. That's it. Like, that's your turn. You pick one of 3 or 4, however many are left, maybe 2 if you're the last guy. But then what you do with that is such a nice branching tree of decisions, and not just decisions, but implications. And I love games that feel that way, where your actual, the button you push or which ones are small, but there's a lot that happens from that. I do think it feels like a Feld game in many ways.
But it's not really a point salad of games. I mean, there's a few ways to get points. Everything points to those ways. It's also about keeping people alive.
There's the favors, there's cows, there's gold.
Yeah, but that's pretty. Oh, and the people.
The people.
I retract my earlier comment.
There's a lot of different ways to get points in this game, actually.
Right, especially when you have the people. I forgot about that. Each person has a different way to get points.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me it feels a little bit like In the Year of the Dragon meets Bruges.
You know why it doesn't feel like a Feld game to me? Because the theme makes sense.
Okay.
No,
sure, I
it
can
really
see
does.
that. No, I can see that.
The wagons will get destroyed in a storm, but if you have wood, you can repair them.
Yeah.
You know, the people will die without the medicine. As dumb as it
but
sounds,
I mean,
that all makes sense.
In the Year of the Dragon, when the Mongols attack, you lose points. And if your people can't eat, then you lose points. And also, there's that one thing that happens every now and then where you lose points. You know what I'm talking about. No, that's theme is...
No,
but
again, going back to what I said at the very beginning, this really could have been called Oregon Trail, the board game.
Absolutely.
It really could have been.
Yes.
They obviously didn't get the license, but if they had done it, that would have made sense.
And it would have worked well.
In fact, if I were them, I would have called disease dysentery and roll the dice and if IP. I mean,
Wow.
No, that's not
own a disease.
No, that's not copyrighted. They can call this dysentery, of course. No, Pioneer Days is a fine title for the game, and it works well.
I also like the diversity in the game. The different equipment is going to be different each time it comes up, and I love, by the way, those combos of equipment. That's neat. But I like the people. So you use 2 decks, and so I've seen every deck now in the game. I don't like Deck E as much as the others. You guys haven't played with Deck E, but Deck E has a lot of characters that when you take them, you immediately roll a die, and if you get one of the there are 2 results, you'll lose something, and then the other 2 you'll get something.
It's the swinging crazy deck.
I like randomness, but that you roll negative, and I like lose 2 medicine, and you're like, why did I take this person again?
Exactly.
I get that.
So, but A, B, C, and D are fine, and again, you might like E, but it gives you the 2 different decks to mix with, and then the order that they come out in is going to be different.
Right.
I like that. First Class did a very similar thing.
I hate to play First Class.
Where you have different decks that can be used in combination, and each combination slightly changes the game.
Right.
So
right.
I like that ability that Pioneer Days also has.
And from the same designer, Elysium does that, where you have decks, and you use only a few.
You're right. Okay. Yeah. So you like the one of the designers,
Matthew Dunstan. I do tend to like his designs. I don't like them all, but there are a few in his resume now that are very solid games, very good games.
The game scales well. The game does not take forever to play. The game could feel samey, I think, if it was one more year, but doesn't. And the drafting of the dice, like Z said, is always interesting. You go first, you have a big pick. You go last, you're deciding what disaster's happening. So everyone has some sort of choice to make in the game.
Right.
You never feel like, unless of course you get left, like you said, with 2 dice that are the exact same thing.
But even then, unless the dice are literally the same, you still have choices. You can take the die and take the money. You can take the die and take the person below that spot. You can take the action, when then that action translates to new choices. Let's say it's equip. Which equipment? There's a lot of... I tend to be a big fan of tactical games in which you react to something that's going on. I think this game has a lot of strategy in it, where you pick a plan, and you try to stick with that plan. I'm going to go mining, so the equipment I get better feed into that. So every time I mine, I also get medicine. Or every time I do something else, I also mine. And I like that a lot. This game is, gives you strategies that work. While still, yes, reacting to the town you're visiting. You prepare for that. It's a lot of points. But it's a strong strategic game that is short but feels robust.
I also like how you can change the face of the dice.
Right. That's
something that I didn't really catch on to until later on. But you can take something and it will trigger its effects. Then you can pay $3 and change it to something else that you need.
Right.
That's a really, I
like that.
It took me to my 3rd game until I was like, oh, you can do that.
Yeah.
Because that's just a different way to do it.
Right.
And I like combos anyway. Like, ooh, this makes this go up. These are small combos, but it's entertaining.
I mean, you can take a die for those combos that you want to fire off, and then you can change it to something else that you need. And I really like that. It just adds another layer of those choices that you have to make. That makes your turn more than just taking a die.
Or grabbing a couple of cubes or something.
Right, exactly.
So for me, 2 thumbs up. Really like it. I didn't think I would. Obviously, component quality is amazing, but beyond that, I like how fast it is. Turns go quickly. I get that character at the beginning who kind of gives me a focus on what strategy I'm going to do. Never pick the generic people. I mean, I wouldn't, right? They're just...
The people with the weird artwork?
Oh, on the other side, of the character. I don't think you even saw it. You could be a generic person.
Oh yeah, no, yes.
Yeah, I would
no,
never always play with the powers because they're fun.
Sure,
Yes.
sure, absolutely, yeah.
And so I want a lot of wagons, I want space, equipment, lots of choices, and yet it ended just good times. So this is a solid game for me. 2 thumbs up.
Yeah, I feel the same way. The only thing I don't like, I mean, if I have to pick something, is yes, the artwork on those weird, real life people. And then some of the town cards, it's hard to prepare for everything.
Yeah.
So it's hard for you to keep your cows alive and do something when you get to the next town and make sure that your characters are scoring. So, well, if you are someone who does not like to feel like you're just barely above water, then this game will be constantly waterboarding you. Just be careful with that. If you don't like that feeling, yeah, the game is punishing, and you will not do everything. You cannot. You will get hurt.
But you can mitigate that in some ways. Like, I might be like, I never want any of my people to die. No, I could pick something and say, none of my people will die. We'll all live. And you could probably pull that off.
Sure, but I mean, at the
expense.
Sure, all your cattle die.
Of like a lot of other things.
You're gonna lose all your money, all your cows. Yeah.
But your people are fine.
Yeah.
That's what matters.
We're just
people.
walking.
So again, that doesn't necessarily bother me, but it's a thing I want to point out if you're someone that does not like that feeling. So, but for me, 2 moo cows up. I really enjoy the game. It's well made, and like I said, strategic, but short and punchy. That's a good combo for me.
Yeah. I like the dice drafting aspect of it. Drafting cards or dice, that's usually a mechanic that I am
keep going.
Enjoying more than anything else. But I like that. I like the fact that the choices you have to make when you have the dice. I like those things. I like the different paths to victory. I like the variable player powers. So there's just a lot of good stuff. I'm not that bothered about the little discrepancy in the artwork either. So 2 covered wagons up for me as well. This is a great game. It's very fun, very enjoyable. Doesn't overstay its welcome. Fires on all pistons.
There's no pistons in the Pioneer days.
Well, trains. That's the expansion.
There you go. See?
It might be. Who knows? All right. Until next time, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Z Garcia. Thank you.
Sam Healy. See you on the flip side, folks.